DW Africa Link.
Nigeria is facing a security crisis, one of the most intense in recent years. Armed groups are increasingly targeting security personnel, and it's proven a challenge to tackle. In fact, just a few days ago, dozens of civilians were reportedly killed in a military airstrike targeting jihadists. So why is it so difficult to tackle insecurity in Nigeria? And what progress has been made so far?
But if you put it into context as to what's been happening in Nigeria, firstly, starting from all of the killings, both in the Middle Belt and upward, the response from the state does not show some level of, let me say, concern or actual care about its own citizens. So if the Nigerian government had been there protecting their citizens, maybe foreign governments would be able to collaborate with Nigerian government and Nigerian systems to protect their own citizens in Nigeria.
That's what's coming up. I am Eddie Micah Jr., and you are welcome to Africa Link, the podcast connecting you to the stories that matter.
Africa Link, every weekday here on DW.
The stakes are high in Nigeria and beyond. Armed groups like Boko Haram and Islamic State West Africa Province, ISWAP, operate across Nigeria, fueling instability in Africa's most populous country. At the same time, kidnappings, banditry, and communal violence continue to affect different parts of the country. The U.S. recently authorized the departure of non-emergency embassy staff from Abuja and warned of heightened risks in parts of the country. It's a reminder that the country's security problem is still shaping diplomacy, investor confidence, and daily life across West Africa. Let's get more from Omiyan Roy Ohedievi, a security analyst and National Secretary, retired members of Nigerian Armed Forces. Also with me is DW's Olisa Chukuma in Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome to Africa Link, both of you. Omiyan, how would you describe the current security landscape in Nigeria?
Thank you for this opportunity. You know, it's unfortunate that Nigeria keeps popping up in the global space and becoming a country of interest. Currently in Nigeria, we have sporadic and spontaneous outbreak of insecurity. We have sporadic and spontaneous attacks on persons living within localities, especially in outskirts. And we have attacks on military convoys and military institutions and military installations. Now, these attacks and on persons and citizens and military installations has continued unabated, and unfortunately, we begin to see losses that ranges up to the highest ranks in the military of military generals, and innocent citizens are also displaced. Now, unfortunately, also, finally, to add, the judiciary has not been seen to actually apply penalties or take into custody and put through the criminal justice system for people that are arrested to answer for the crimes that they commit.
Nice. Thanks for really breaking that down for us. Is the situation any different from previous cycles of violence, or what makes this particular situation unique, if it is?
The current situation is unique because the attacks are coming from supposedly known non-state actors. The attacks are coming from supposedly identified, positioned non-state actors. We already know where they are. The attacks are coming on persons that are vulnerable, citizens of the country. Same thing with protectors of the country, the highest protectors of the country, which is the elite military groups. And the attacks are coming after repeated public intelligence exposure, public international intelligence exposures. So the attacks also last for hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, before any perceived intervention from government security forces. So these are very unique incidences to indicate security breakdown and security failure.
Right. So what is driving this? Is there anything you believe in particular is driving these kind of unique attacks?
My worry and my fears and concerns are basically on non-accountability for crimes committed. Another area is the politicization of crime, where you now hear people talking about de-radicalization, repentance without penalties, where you now have people talking about consideration for criminal elements to be reintegrated back into society. Now you now hear people talking about unpoliced areas where you have within the territorial integrity of a country where citizens pay taxes, where they live will be classified as unpoliced. And we have areas also where there are mineral resources that produce economic advantages, viability for the country. And those areas are also classified as unpoliced areas. So we begin to worry why protection is limited to certain areas and certain persons within the country.
To you, Olisa, it's just attack after attack after attack. How are people responding to all of this? And what is the government saying?
Well, the people have been, can we say, use the word deflated? Because just like Mr. Ahmed has talked about now, the attacks have happened on governed spaces. The regular people who are being attacked in places in the Northeast, and now in the Middle Belt, places like Jos, we've seen these attacks not up to 2 weeks now, but also the killing of high-ranking military officers, especially the one about the Brigadier General last week. I think that was the one that really got Nigerians not necessarily angry, but deflated to a state of where if the generals themselves can be attacked and killed, who are supposed to be protecting the citizenry against Boko Haram and the likes, then it means that the government nor the military can protect the people. So with the spate of attacks we've seen in recent weeks in Jos, in Benue, and the ones that happen daily in places like Kaduna and Borno in the northeast, and the ones that we're seeing that generals are being killed, Nigerians have almost given up that the government cannot handle the security situation in the country. They are deflated. I think that's the word. They are totally deflated right now.
And what's been the government's position on these attacks or response to people saying that it's not able to handle or tackle these jihadists or armed groups?
We've seen the government's regular speeches, especially from the presidency, about bringing the culprits to book and commemorating with the families of especially the fallen soldiers and generals who have lost their lives in this battle against insurgency. But however, Nigerians have become so used to that. There is this thing they talk about, the numbing now, or desensitization to attacks and also government speeches and statements. Yes, yesterday it was confirmed that the president had another security brief with not just some security agencies and big generals at Aso Rock, but also French was confirmed, but not given names, French generals who have come in to have that meeting yesterday, being that the security situation has gotten to an all-time high. Like if you were to rate this administration on security, they would score 0. They would not score up to 2% because the attacks on Nigerians, the attacks on generals killed, makes it look like if Nigerians have no place again to turn to.
Right. Thank you, Lisa, for that. Omiyan, back to you. Despite mounting security challenges and the recent travel warning issued by the United States, that was, barely a week or so ago, the Nigerian government has insisted that the country remains safe for citizens, investors, and visitors. I mean, it doesn't sound accurate to me. Does it to you?
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, with my level of education, my level of interface with international politics, I believe that every country is sovereign and deploys the appropriate mechanism to defend its image and to lobby. So if Nigeria is already proacting lobbying as one of its image laundering strategy, which we all know was on the public space recently, then this is just another opportunity for them to continue in that light. And we all know when you talk about insecurity, it is also restricted to certain areas in the country. So if Nigeria is saying, hey, we are not at a risk, so that means they are indirectly telling you there are places you can fly into and fly out and you still be safe. You can go to Lagos. Even in Lagos, there are places you can't go to. And there are times that you can't travel at those places. So there are different kinds of travel advisory, but you will need security practitioners, professionals on ground to appropriately direct you. So definitely, it's not safe for you, a visitor, because you don't know when a sporadic or spontaneous attack may happen anywhere, being that the military is already being intimidated.
And federal authorities described the U.S. advisory as, quote, unbalanced, arguing that it does not reflect what they say are ongoing gains made by security agencies across several parts of the country. So take us through some of the main gains that you believe have been made by Nigeria's military in its fight against terror or armed groups or jihadists.
Well, let me explain something to certain persons in the world that may have forgotten. Now, every country has paramilitary to quickly intervene in domestic breaches on constitutions and rules of engagement amongst citizens. Now, if there's any breach in my private space, I call the police or any other agency. If there's traffic violations, there are agencies to call. If there are maybe drug abuse cases, there are people to call. Financial breaches, there are agencies to call. Now, if it gets to armed non-state actors, definitely the police comes in first, because you are already using a firearm and there are rules and laws against possession and use of firearm. Then when the police is intimidated, then the police even has a combat unit called the Mobile Police Force. The Mobile Police Force is just like a SWAT team in certain other countries. They come in and supposed to help the police interface with the superior firepower and also intimidate that threat. But when the Mobile Police Force are intimidated, defeated, the military is called in to take over that threat, decimate it, and hand over that space back to the police. And the police ensures that the citizens are properly policed to go about their economic and social activities. So if you want to rate the intervention of military in any part of the world, especially Nigeria, you should rate it with the fact that economic and social life returns to that place. The police is handed over that space. The military withdraws to the barrack and the police takes over and life continues by the people being protected. You see, so if you rate it on that line, would you say that there are successes or yet to be achieved successes?
I'll pose that question to you. Are there successes in Nigeria or not?
There are none. Now, when we say there are no successes, it means that the military itself is being attacked. Generals are being killed. We just had a colonel with certain numbers of soldiers killed again in Borno State. So there are no successes gained because in the military we have what we term as a battle and we have what we term as war. War is ongoing, battles come and go. Now, if you hand over back to the police and the community leaves the IDP camps and return back to their places of abode, commuting safely, transacting their businesses safely, engaging in social lives safely. There are communities in Nigeria where soldiers went to get married, they were abducted. There are communities in Nigeria where persons travel from point A to point B, they are adopted on roads, up to 40, 50 people in vehicles traveling. So you don't classify that as successes. You classify it as an ongoing war that have not been fully achieved. Success.
Right. Thank you very much, Omian. Olisa, based on what we just heard from Omian, this is going to be quite a long battle, isn't it?
It apparently looks like it will be a long drawn-out one, especially under this current administration. Nigeria is also gearing up for an election cycle year, going into next year's 2027 elections. And the spike in attacks now in places in the north central, the northwest, the northeast have really given the political class cause for concern, not just the citizenry, especially given the fact that we are now losing, the country is now losing colonels and generals on the battlefield to this same insurgency. So it doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon. And one thing that also bothers Nigerians is that it's no longer news that the U.S. there have been lots of announcement made between the Trump administration and Nigeria in terms of drone surveillance, cooperation, military, weaponry, and also about 200 soldiers, non-combatants, have been based in the country for about 2 months now. Yet, the attacks have significantly increased. So a lot of people are asking, so why do we have all these international corporations and yet the results aren't there? Nigerians are not safer than they were, with each passing day, with each passing week. So that's the biggest cause for concern going forward, especially with the elections looming early next year.
Right. And I mean, Olisa, we may talk about generals and military personnel, security personnel dying from such attacks, but when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. Many people are also losing their lives in this battle. I mean, just recently, a Nigeria military airstrike apparently hit a market area, killing dozens of civilians. And this is also quite frequently happening, isn't it?
Yes, it's not the first time the military have come out to admit, mistakes when it comes to airstrikes. With the latest one that happened over the weekend, it was reported that while chasing insurgents, the airstrikes hit a market somewhere in the northeast, and dozens were killed. The military have announced investigation into the incident. So that is what Nigerians, especially in these hard-prone areas in the northeast, have to contend with, not just from attacks from insurgency, but also repelling attacks and airstrikes from the military who are trying to quell the insurgent movement, because the brazenness of the reinforcements of these insurgents in the last couple of years has really shocked the people, the nation, because it looks like if the entire Sahel and the insurgency that we're seeing there have descended into Nigeria's ungoverned spaces, to use Mr. Amian's words. These ungoverned spaces stretch into vast lands. And they have now taken the initiative of attacking Nigerian military installations and facilities. So it's not longer that they are on the run. No, the insurgency seems as if they are on the offensive, which is the biggest issues right now.
Sounds a bit scary when you say the insurgency is on the offensive, which brings me to you, Omian. to touch a bit on what Olisa said, if there's some sort of international military cooperation between Nigeria, the US, and other countries, and that's still not working, then what can work? I mean, we've been talking about insecurity in Nigeria for so many years. It's still going on, even with international collaboration or cooperation. So what will end it? What needs to happen to make Nigeria safe again?
One thing I've always hammered on, and I keep saying it, as a military personnel, retired and a business owner in Nigeria. I own a security company, so I interface with certain areas in the country. I'm into investigations and all other things. Now, the judiciary, which anchors the criminal justice system also, where a suspect is taken into custody, is taken before a court of law, the crime is read out to the suspects, evidence is produced by whatever security agencies that is prosecuting the case, and the suspect is given the right to defend themselves. Where they fail, they are taken through a criminal justice system. If the penalty is death, if the penalty is imprisonment for a certain number of years, and they are taken through a general custodian service system like the prison services. Now, if you have this running, it serves as a deterrent. You know, that is why even corporate organizations have the human resources department, where penalties for violations are given, sack letters are given. You know, you can even be blacklisted in the industry. If it's a medical license you have, your license can be seized. You know, even in journalism, there are lines of violation that you don't cross as a radio station, a TV station, or a journalist practicing independently. But I still give you that assurance that if you remove the influence of political decisions and allow military decisions to be taken against people wielding arms, weaponry, and holding ground within this country, I assure you that our military still have the capacity to take out these insurgents. But the fear is what we classify in Nigeria as a phone call. What if a phone call comes in to say, do not take action? And before you know what's happening, people are dying. And nobody can actually reveal who made that phone call or who received that phone call to reduce the application of the military might. That is where the fear is.
I would have loved for a more positive ending to this, but I guess it is what it is, just stating the facts on the ground and how people feel. So really appreciate that. Omian Roy Ohidievi, a security analyst and National Secretary, retired members of Nigerian Armed Forces. Thank you very much for your insights. Also, DW's Olisa Chukwuma in Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you.
Africa is changing. Don't get left behind. Tune in to Africa Link.
Now, while the government acknowledges the security challenges, it insists that positive strides have been made. But what do ordinary Nigerians make of the situation and its impact on their lives?
How should I be happy in Nigeria when some people can just come and burn down the whole community? Like, it's just a very crazy thing that happens. It's very crazy, and we don't hear of this kind of thing in other places, especially in this time and era. And it has been going on for so long, and it's very painful. Each day just hearing is very painful because people lose their lives. Like, it's no joke.
I know that the country is unsafe. I'm from Lagos. I grew up in Lagos. I went to NYSC last year. I could not use the road to and fro.
Nigeria's size means its security problems have outsized economic consequences. Insecurity raises transport costs, discourages investment, disrupts farming, and pushes up food prices, which then feeds inflation and public frustration. Now, in that sense, the issue is both a human security crisis and a macroeconomic one. What do you think? Share your thoughts with us on Facebook at DW Africa. Listen on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And subscribe to our DW Africa YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. This show was co-produced and edited by Isaac Mugabe. And I am Eddie Micah Jr. Thanks for listening.
DW. Made for minds.